Hi, everybody. This is David Smith from No Kill in Motion here for the first time in a while. We're here. We had a very sad event. Alan Rosenberg, who you have seen on this channel many, many times with us, passed away recently. Alan was a giant to us in the No Kill movement. He was known for his incredible research and analysis and data. Of shelters and looking at things that we none of us saw until Alan actually came on the scene. And he was also a wildly compassionate person, and we loved him. We love him, and we're going to miss him. And we thought we would just have a conversation today about Alan in memory of him and making sure that his legacy lives on as a giant in the no-kill movement. So here today, here with Mike Fry, which I haven't been on camera with for a long time. Mike was one of my mentors and one of the great catalysts in the no-kill movement. Aubrie, Kavanaugh, and I have worked together for years. No Kill Huntsville. She wrote a great book called It's Not Rocket Science about the no kill movement, and just a great book you should look at sometime. Aubrie, um, uh, or Shirley, sorry, Shirley Marsh was known for the blog Yes Biscuit, which was probably one of the most inspirational writing in no kill for me because somehow Shirley could make me laugh even through tragedy to understand concepts. I absolutely loved Shirley's writing. Love to see it when it does come out, Shirley. When you put something out there, I miss it. But but yeah, so let's just talk about Alan. I don't know, Aubrey, do you want to kick us off?
I will. I will. Like all of us, I was shocked to hear of Alan's passing. We had been doing these no kill emotion videos for a while, and we had stopped doing them for a little bit. I think that we all just had so much going on. I mean, because Alan was continuing to write his blog, the New Jersey Allen Observer. I mean, you were in the throes of legislative stuff in Colorado. Shirley was writing a book. I mean, Mike was, getting ready to move and had kind of stepped back a little bit from the group videos anyway. But um, I, like you, I was looking back at some of the videos that we did before, and I was just astounded by the fact that here Alan was just this unassuming guy. I mean, if you saw him, I sometimes judge people like, okay, if I saw you in a grocery store, what would I think you did for a living? And Alan, people might think he was like a college professor or something. Just an ordinary guy. I mean, family, worked a full-time job, coached his little league team. I mean, loved the outdoors. But his brain, I think, worked differently than mine. And I don't think any of us would be offended to say that Alan was probably the smartest guy in the group. Maybe Mike close second, right? But Alan just had a way of looking at things that other people didn't. Alan would be like, if you took like a 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle and put it out on a table, I mean, most of us might start by, like getting the corners and getting the edges together, right? But even while the puzzle was on the table, Alan could just look at it and go, well, there's that, and there's that. I mean, he could just look at it and just deduce what was happening from all those tiny little pieces. His data analysis was just unparalleled, and I think it's just because his brain worked differently. He could deep dive into stats in ways that I didn't even think about at all. But the beauty of that is by going through that, he was able to have like a 30,000 foot view of what was going on, not only at a particular shelter, but on a national level. So, I mean, he just was like a numbers savant. And I don't know exactly what he did for Pfizer, but I know he was very proud of his work at Pfizer. But his brain was just different than mine, and I kind of marveled at that. It was just kind of like watching an artist, but an artist that dealt with numbers and math. But beyond that, I mean, he just wasn't just a numbers guy. I mean, he wasn't like, Ben Affleck in The Accountant. I mean, just a really social guy, right? I mean, he was funny. I mean, he made me laugh. And the way he could say things so plainly made you go, oh, of course, that now that's obvious to me. Whereas you might not have seen it just at a glance. Um, Something that I admired most about Alan too, and I think that we can all agree, our movement has been through, we've been through some tough times in the last few years. I mean, I think it started before the pandemic and then going through the pandemic, our movement has taken some hits. There are some people out there that were originally part of the movement that have strayed. And I know that Nathan Winograd has spoken and talking about that spoken about that at length and written about it at length. But some of the people that were originally in the trenches with us trying to affect social change have kind of gone off and are promoting different ideas, some of which are really bad. They're really ill-informed and they've actually done harm, I think, in the country. But Alan never wavered. I mean, we all support and promote the programs and services of the no-kill equation. And Alan and I talked about this many times, even away from the videos. He was a diehard supporter of the no-kill equation as the go-to solution to end the killing of healthy and treatable animals in our nation's shelters. And we talked many times about, yes, the pandemic created particular challenges for people, but that wasn't the time to let's come up with something brand new. It was a time to double down on the equation and figure out, okay, which elements of the equation should we be focusing on more now because animal problems are people problems. So he never wavered from that, his commitment to that. And I can't remember exactly how long ago it was. And I think, Mike, I think you were involved on this one. We had a couple of videos that we did about socially conscious sheltering that is focused on the five freedoms. But you, Mike, I think brought up, I mean, the sixth freedom has to be the freedom to live. And Alan was deeply committed to that, that every animal that entered a shelter deserved an opportunity to have what they call in the industry a positive outcome. In other words, make it out alive. And he just never wavered on that because for him, it was just part of who he was and it was an ethical issue. And I just, what I'm gonna miss about Alan is that he was just so smart, but he was one of us. I mean, he was, I mean, we like we talked about before. I've met Mike in person, David and Shirley. I've never met you in person. I haven't met Alan in person, but we spent so many hours together. I mean, he was kind of like a brother to me, you know? And I just when I heard that he was gone, I mean, I knew that he had been ill. But I just never in a thousand years imagined that he was so ill that we would lose him. So, and I guess that's a lesson to us all. I mean, we know that our time here is not guaranteed, but I don't think I ever told Alan that I loved him, but I do love Alan. I mean, I still do, and I always will. And I hope that when his family looks back at videos and learns more about what he's done, that they're incredibly proud of him. I don't know how much he talked to his family about his advocacy in the movement, but I mean, like I blogged about, I wish the No Kill Advocacy Center was still doing the Henry Berg Awards because I would love for Alan to posthumously be awarded the Henry Berg Award because he really, the things that he did to affect change, not just in his own backyard, but across the country, um, I just think we should all just be so grateful because he helped people see things very clearly when before they couldn't. He just helped them see through the fog, the haze, and for that I will be forever grateful.
Yeah, that was great, Aubrie. Mike, what are your thoughts on Alan? There's so many. As we can see
Yeah, yeah.
from Aubrie,
Before
she only got
Sorry,
through
I
one.
carried on. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
before I talk about Alan, I just have this deep sense that because of the context that that we're having this conversation, the loss of, Alan Rosenberg, that there might be people listening to this or watching this video who aren't fully aware of the work all of us did. And since I was sort of a little bit of an instigator back, I think, before any of you were
Ah,
even
yes, you were.
involved, I would like to just set the context for the audience a little tiny bit because it says a lot about Alan and everybody else in this chat, in this conversation. And it's, I think, important for people listening to the things, Aubrie said and that everyone else will say to really understand the world Alan entered into when he got into the no-kill movement. When we all started getting together, I mean, think about it. Animal shelters in the United States were on average killing about 50% of the animals that came into the animal shelters. And we're talking about organizations like, the Humane Society of the United States, the ASPCA, PETA, these large mammoth organizations with huge budgets that had all kinds of marketing dollars to cover that up. And so when we talk about the importance of statistics and the importance of data, that, Alan's forte, it was that was the key substance, the key bits and bytes that helped us bring that out to the public so people could see it. And to look at the issue of these wealthy, supposedly animal loving organizations that are engaged in this mass killing of healthy and treatable dogs and cats, that their donors are paying them, millions and millions of dollars to save. The kind of person who can look deep into that dark abyss and not cover their heads and run away from it, but can step up and decide they're going to do something about it. It's a special kind of person. We need a lot more people like that. And when we lose one, it's really bad. Someone else.
That's right. Thanks, Mike. I know that I, I've worked in technology for decades at this point, and I work with data, and uh, he was a mentor to me. I did not see what he saw, even with my advocacy and my technical ability. I could have never found things that I found with Alan. In fact, I'm working right now with a group called Data Changemakers on a survey of Colorado shelter data over a decade. Um, and what I learned from Alan helped me help them understand what we're looking for to try to find the data that matters in what's happening out there, and looking at 10 years, because we have had improvement, as Mike said, right? We, when we all came into this, the shelter system was a nightmare. We still take it very seriously because every healthy and treatable pet matters. Alan knew that. We know that. But it was millions back then. And that has decreased significantly. It's way too big already, but we couldn't have seen it, and we couldn't even called out certain things without understanding that data. Shirley, we haven't heard from you yet. I want to hear.
Can I, now that I've gotten my breath back, can I
We can come back to you, Mike.
I lost
Right.
it, but I'm back.
No,
And
no, but
and so Alan was one of those rare special people like the others in this group, which is why we all consider him, family, because there are just not that many people like us who can stare into that abyss and decide they're going to step up and do something to make a difference and change. And the thing about Alan is not only did he step up and look into that black, dark abyss and decide he was going to, bring his skills to the table, he never really got like heavy or morose about it. He had this really unique skill of being able to stay focused, bring his intellect and his passion to the table, and make the greatest impact that he possibly could. And that was his number. I would call that his superpower. And because the passion and the data side of it, most people, if they're lucky, can do one of those, that he blended them together in a really powerful way, and he really did make a profound difference. And that was the point I was trying to get to. I apologize for being emotional about it, but I feel that way about everybody who has done this work, because you know I don't necessarily put myself in that category because it was my job. All of you and Alan did it just entirely out of the goodness of your hearts. And that's a very special thing about him and all of you.
Yeah, well, no one's going to challenge the goodness of your heart, Mike. We all worked with you for years. Um, but I do want to get to Shirley because and I know she has a friend in the background talking that that we
Sorry.
heard. But no, that's appropriate for this, I think, right? But go ahead, Shirley.
Well, I loved Alan. I am going to miss him. I think that I felt like we were somewhat kindred spirits in that he just he was not afraid to say whatever needed to be said. And you know, I haven't been able to rewatch any of the videos yet. That'll probably take me a little time before I'm up for doing that. But just going on memory, I think there were times when we would be talking in between segments, just amongst ourselves, not being recorded, and talking about, do we want to touch on this topic? How do we want to say this? What's the best way? And Alan would just say, "Give it to me. I'll say it." And I always appreciated that about him. Everybody in their group needs somebody like that, and we were lucky to have him. Um, and I think, you know, he did what he did, as others have said, out of a out of a culture of respect for life, and um, he knew that he was never going to be asked to be part of any of the wealthy animal organizations, because he constantly called them out for the way that they took in money, the way that they lavishly spent money on themselves, and the way that they failed to save animals' lives. Um, and so that was another thing I admired about him. And I think we probably all remember that in scheduling our um, meetings to make the videos, um, we were always second to Alan's son's Little League schedule. And that was another thing that I really appreciated about him. There was no question that, you know, sometimes there were times when we would have to wait and see if we were going to the playoffs or if we could schedule a meeting. So, and he loved his family. He loved his animal advocacy, and from what I could tell, he loved his life. And like Aubrie said, I wish I had told him that while he was here. I did not know that I wouldn't have the chance. So let me take this opportunity to say that Alan has inspired me to say that I love all of you who are in this chat. And if you are taking the time to watch this video in memory of Alan, I love all of you too. So.
Oh, that's beautiful, Shirley. Thank you.
Really,
Beautiful.
because I
Back at
feel
you.
that way about everybody here. But you know, I forgot about the Little League thing. I forgot, you know, but because it was just a thing that became a thing. If he couldn't make it, then okay, we'll reschedule. I totally forgot that, but he did do that a lot. That happened a lot. Yeah. What else? What other things? You know, I'm trying to think of some of those moments because Alan used to make me laugh really hard, and I can't think of one. But and it wasn't always just in between, right? While we were chatting, figuring out the next segment. Sometimes in the segment he'd say something, and I'd be like, I wish I could do that. He was fearless. And the truth is, I think all of you are a little bit more fearless than I am. I'm probably the biggest scaredy cat of the bunch when I talk. And it's funny because I don't have the reputation in the state of Colorado, everyone thinks I'm a troublemaker. But I'm like, you don't know anything. You should meet my friends. And Alan was one of those. The stuff that would come out of him, I'd be like, wow, he just said that out loud. And he's 100% on the mark. It's so powerful.
Well, and to dovetail off of that, I think the thing that amazed me was, and we've done so many of these videos was, I mean, Alan, it was just all right here, right? I mean, it didn't matter what you threw at him. I mean, he had an answer, he had clarity, he had conviction, and it was just like so much a part of his thought process that he was just ready to go. I mean, anything, and sometimes we'd hit a subject, we'd start on a subject, but then we'd detour, we'd pivot to something else. And Alan was always ready. Alan had answers, and they were clear, they were concise. And like you said, Mike, I mean, he never got maudlin about it, right? And I
Right.
think that that's because of something that Shirley had said before. I mean, just his conviction for him, it was just, I mean, it was just self-evident. This is a moral issue. This is what we should be doing. And to David, I think you said something at the beginning, and maybe a lot of people don't know. I mean, there was a time years ago, and Mike, you were in the biz before many of us came to advocacy, where I mean, every year, what was it, like 16, 17 million animals died in shelters every year? I mean, we're talking healthy and treatable animals, and the public, no idea how their dollars were being spent. And now we're at a point where it's less than a million, and that's still too many, but my gosh, how far we've come. And when I look at this stuff, and part of it is because I love all you guys and I respect you all so much, it's not, and no one here is looking for credit. It's not about these big national organizations that are raking in millions of dollars, pulling on people's heartstrings, and then paying each other huge salaries and having these elaborate, conferences that they go to where they're flying first class and all that. It's all of us. It's the people in the trenches. And Alan was at the forefront of that. And Alan, just the difference that he made, um, I just think that he never was looking for credit, but I think that Alan was the best of us.
There
And
was
and that's what I'm gonna miss.
there was this aspect of Alan that I didn't fully appreciate early on, and that is the simple fact that he did his work in New Jersey, and 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 I'll explain in a second, because the sheltering situation in the communities in New Jersey, like Newark and some of those places, the politics in that state are so much more toxic. I mean, politics is toxic everywhere. And, we all kind of worked in this weird realm where we had to get into politics. And pretty much whenever I had to go to a city council or a state legislature, or deal with the US legislature, it was always like some of the worst parts of the work for me. And Alan finally introduced me. Well, not finally, it was fairly early on in our relationship. He introduced me to some of the power brokers in the cities and counties in New Jersey to see if, I could be brought in to do consulting work for the sheltering system there. And it was the first time I really got an up close and personal, view of the politics in the communities that he worked in. And I would say they were some of the most challenging and most difficult because I'm sorry, New Jersey has a reputation for being a really toxic political environment for a reason. And so in some ways, I would say he was in some of the worst places to do the work, and still he never got maudlin or victimy or whiny about it. He just rolled up his sleeves and did the work.
Yep.
And I just think that that is so impressive and so appreciated.
it is true what he did there. And I grew up in New Jersey, right? I haven't been there in years. I have more of an accent than Alan had, but but I grew up in there, and it was fantastic. And I did think of that a lot. His core requests, which he did all the time, he demanded information from shelters all the time, and he did not let them get away with trying to brush it off, because sometimes they will try to do that. He just wouldn't. And his work, at the state legislature and with other groups in New Jersey, he's going to be sorely missed in that state. There are a lot of people there that know how important his work was, because we've been talking about him in the broad sense. He helped all of us. It's national. His work is nationally important. But in the state of, we all know that we do our best work locally, right? We talked about that with Alan, and on many of the things about transfer, right? Me and Alan had talked about that a lot on there. It's like, transfer is great, but what's happening down the block, right? Why aren't we looking at what's happening down the block before we start bringing in tens of thousands of animals from other places? And that was some of the stuff Alan would find. He would find that, and he would expose, hey, they're just taking an easy route out to make themselves look good, and he did it through what you said, Mike, the tenacity to annoy those people in Jersey politics, which some of them I'm related to. So, you know, I know who they are, but yeah, that's great stuff. Well, I know this was kind of long. I hope some people came on. I hope some people spend the time to look through this YouTube channel. Um, Alan has done dozens, maybe 100 videos with us that are out there on everything. We've talked about every program and service of the no-kill equation. We've talked about hot spots that have come up over the years. I think a lot of it is timeless, because it's all based on the single premise of saving every healthy and treatable pet, which everyone here did. As Shirley said, I love all you guys. And we should do this again sometime.
Can I throw one little
Yes,
thought out?
please.
And sorry, you can edit this out if you want.
No, absolutely not.
Well, it's I just want to say to anybody who's made it all the way through this video and you're still listening, hopefully you have a sense of the spirit of Alan Rosenberg, and how you can go out in the world and make the world better for people and animals, or whatever your cause or passion is. I'm just going to add that we're in a time in the United States right now where there's a lot going on. There's a lot of issues. And I will guarantee you, if you can find and take the spirit of Alan Rosenberg and go out into the public and take that spirit and make a difference, we will have a much better place.
I think we're going to end with Mike's mic drop. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.